Despite all the fear and all of the excitement, Bitcoin remains in the exact same place that it was when we last made a video discussing this, pretty much where it spent the entire month of August and now the very beginning of September. There are some big questions to answer here, primarily surrounding if Bitcoin is actually going to be sliding a lot lower from here or if it's going to be breaking out. And my bias has been up for a while. My bias has been up since pretty much $16,000. And it's still up right now, but I want to break this down for you and really go through what we have here. And the number one thing that I've got to start this video off by talking about is just these two red and green boxes. This is the price range that I mentioned right at the beginning I'd be expecting Bitcoin to trade inside of. I didn't know I would be this correct about it, but I'll take it. And we have not really left this zone at all, other than for a few hours, 4 days earlier in August, and some very, very brief wicks. We're now back at the bottom, and this is definitely not good, right? I mean, as far as this particular support area goes, we don't want to see that Bitcoin is trading here for too long. I think we've been here for too long now. I mean, since the time that we kind of entered this range until right now, it has been 26 days. And to me, this was much more temporary when we kind of started to trade inside of this range. And the reason that I even defined this range is it was basically the bottom that Bitcoin was experiencing before, and then another bottom that we kind of punched in, which was a little bit more kind of blurry. We've just been sideways here, which to me just represents that the market has had a lot of indecision. If we take a look at this on the Fear and Greed Index, we got a reading of 26. Yesterday was also 26. Last week was 48. We've got some interesting readings on the Fear and Greed Index, but I think that this is definitely going to be lower the next time that this updates, which will be how long from now? In 8 hours, so you may know by the time you watch this video, you may not. But I think that's important. I think that if we lose this level, there's no support left, and I think that's the real problem for Bitcoin, right? Like, that invalidation is basically going to be this low that we just stuck in, as far as I'm concerned. That's going to be basically the invalidation now, which is 57.1, and if we do end up going below that, look at this chart, right? I don't know where Bitcoin could find support below 57.1. It's got, no trading that happened over here. These drops happened very quickly. This drop happened very quickly. This is clearly a very illiquid zone, right? So if Bitcoin does get below 57.1, I definitely think that we could be in for some trouble. However, I do think that if we're able to hold above this level, then our levels for invalidation on the upside are pretty clear. It's probably going to be about 61.2 over here. Obviously, we've punched in a new high at 65K, so that could be an interesting kind of invalidation. But I think the first one is going to be just getting above this red box at about 61,200, 61,300, depending on how you've drawn these levels. And I think that if Bitcoin is able to get above there, then we're kind of back in business. I don't think that this high is going to be a problem, and I think that it's actually going to be very easy for Bitcoin to start setting higher highs, right? That's the beauty of being in a downtrend, is the more you trend down, the easier it becomes to enter an uptrend again, right? Because where previously you would have needed, to break this high and then this high and then this and then this, and now we only really have to get above this level to start being very bullish again. And there are big patterns to suggest this, right? We've actually been talking about this on this YouTube channel for a while, so shout out to those of you that are subscribed to this YouTube channel. You're going to be very, very well informed about this. This is obviously on the Bybit chart, and Bybit, just while we're talking about it, is obviously the best exchange in the space. It's been the best exchange in the space for many years, but they've also launched like a sister exchange here, Apex. It is a decentralized exchange, which is absolutely sick. So definitely check that out if you like the idea of a decentralized exchange. You've got everything that you're used to made basically sort of by the Bybit team. Very closely affiliated. This is going to be your place to live if you like decentralized finance and stuff like that. And while you're down there, check out the link to Blowfin too. It is a phenomenal platform who are offering you thousands and thousands of dollars in bonuses. I don't actually have the webpage open right now, but they're offering you huge bonuses, so check that out while you're down there. But if we do take a look at this chart here, we have this really obvious parallel channel, this descending channel that Bitcoin has been in for a while now, and we've conformed to it really well. I mean, when I first started showing this chart to you guys, I was like, I don't know, it maybe is something, maybe not. So far, I mean, and bearing in mind that we basically entered this channel, 190 days ago, that is over 6 months. This is, pardon me. This is definitely the best kind of conformity to this pattern that I could have asked for. We're currently just kind of bouncing off this midpoint line here, which I think is absolutely great. So again, same kind of invalidation. If you lose this midpoint line, you're probably coming back down to the bottom. This has been a pretty good midpoint line so far. I want to point this out to you. Here's some support. Here's a lot of resistance that Bitcoin was able to find at this midpoint level. So this is definitely, obviously, an important level in my opinion. And I think that if the Bitcoin price is able to kind of drop below it, then yeah, we're going to be seeing very, very low 50,000, if not significantly lower in the 40s. And, you know, if we do talk about those kind of very bearish price targets just for a minute to kind of show ourselves what we might be able to expect, for me, it's the same thing, right? If we get below kind of where we are now, I'm going to expect that we kind of fall down to like 44 this time. I think that we've gotten a little bit lucky, you know, and I think that luck is going to run out if we lose this level. So it's going to be a big drop, but that doesn't actually scare me away from my bull case at all. You know, if we take a look at this in terms of time, from the time that it took Bitcoin to set the all-time high versus when it was in this price range, it was only 37 days, right? So in this case now, we will be rolling the clock back by about 210 days, or in other words, 7 months if we fall down here. But in terms of setting highs, we're only really rolling the clock back by like 30 days of price action. And when you look at it that way, to me, it's just, you know, when there's volatility, there's a lot of volatility, right? Like we got volatility over here and we didn't stop having volatility for about 5 months. So, you know, that's usually how it goes. And then you enter very long periods of low volatility like the one we're in right now. But obviously, eventually they come to a resolution and the price action happens pretty quickly. So I think that's absolutely great. And I think that does definitely indicate some support down here for Bitcoin at about $44,000, maybe even 48. I still think that 48 obviously is going to be on the cards. We kind of front ran the level just a little bit. We fell down to like 49K, just a little bit. You know, so I think that, you know, any of these levels would be, you know, would make sense as bearish price targets. And as far as bullish ones go, like I said, 61.3 up here is the invalidation. It's going to be very easy to keep going up from there. I just think that this entire zone is so worn out now that basically I think all we're waiting for at this stage is one fat-fingered buyer or fat-fingered seller, or just one person, one group in particular, whatever it may be, to pump or dump the price. Honestly, I think we're just kind of at the mercy of whoever that's going to be at this stage. And I think we're also at the mercy of traditional finance. I mean, the S&P 500 has been remarkably stable for some time now, and that's after kind of pulling off a really impressive recovery. So I think that if we start seeing the S&P 500 really pushing back up again, that's where we're going to start to see a lot of excitement coming in for Bitcoin. And in fact, I fully believe that 100% of the reason that we haven't seen anything nice happen on Bitcoin for a while, I fully believe that 100% of that reason is because of the S&P 500 not moving or doing anything particularly interesting. Bitcoin against Ethereum, or rather Ethereum against Bitcoin, still shit, still dying. Four Flies was still 100% right about his targets. I've got a very aggressive target down here at 0.31 BTC per token. I don't know if we're going to hit it, but Ethereum has continued to die against Bitcoin. I've had countless questions about this. I've done analysis on this countless times. Those of you that are subscribed to this channel, I can't believe this shit is free. You've got the best and really only accurate analysis I've seen from anybody on Ethereum right here on this YouTube channel. And if that doesn't deserve you to smash those likes up and double check that you are subscribed, then I don't know what the hell will. That analysis has been on point, and I think that we're still looking at a pretty good spot for that. As far as the dollar goes, I think that we are seeing a bit of a bounce here, and that's interesting. That's obviously exactly what we would have expected at this particular range for the dollar. So that also, I think, is really going to explain a little bit of the weakness that we've been seeing on Bitcoin recently. But the fact that that hasn't really pushed the S&P 500 down is a very good sign in my books. And I would be looking to see the dollar kind of, you know, find a little bit of resistance. Let's say at 102.6, something like that. Just any of these kind of horizontal levels that could make sense. I think the dollar could easily rally up to 103.8, and that would probably you know, paint some issues for crypto, but overall, you know, I don't think that the stance for the dollar is great, and I think that it's pretty fair to say that we may end up seeing the dollar continuing to get weaker, and if that does happen, then obviously, you know, we might expect our speculative investments to still do well. This is still a good chart. It's definitely not a 26 on the Fear and Greed Index chart. I mean, you know, just from the low of this particular market cycle to the current price, you know, it's taken, you know, nearly 2 years, and we're up by 3.8 times. We have a 3.8 times gain. So it's very strong. It's a very, very strong chart. It's still a very healthy chart. It's really nothing that I can be, you know, worried about myself. So I think that's absolutely great. If we take a look at a couple of indicators, our daily Ichimoku cloud right here is offering a little bit of resistance to Bitcoin. It wasn't a problem last time, and it wasn't a thick cloud last time. This time, it's exactly the same. If anything, it looks a little bit easier. So I think that Bitcoin should have quite an easy time getting above this zone of resistance on the Ichimoku cloud. I'm very glad to see that it's a thin cloud. It tells me that there is indeed resistance here, which of course we already knew, but it also tells me that I shouldn't expect it to be a super big challenge. So I think that as long as this market itself can muster a little bit of strength, it should be very easy to start flipping these levels. If we take a look at our daily EMA ribbon, we're still encountering resistance from it. We've been encountering resistance from it for a while, and it looks like that's continuing on here. If we zoom in onto the shorter time frames, you can't really use these indicators. You kind of could actually. This has worked out recently, but I wouldn't put too much kind of weight on these shorter time frames for indicators like this. But if we do look at the Ichimoku cloud, yeah, same thing, a little bit of resistance up ahead, really nothing too crazy. On the daily, on the hourly, we are encountering Ichimoku resistance right now. But I think that this is kind of the floor, right? Like, I don't know what's going to make us lose this, but if we do lose it, then, I think really it's going to be very hard to recover. But at least for the very, very short term, I think it's going to be hard to recover. But yeah, I think, range bound right now, that hasn't changed. We can get some fake outs and stuff, but, that's not really going to change the picture that much. So it's looking pretty good from those perspectives to me. If we take a look at some of our altcoins, we're seeing Solana come back down to $129, which is a beautiful buy zone for Solana on this chart. It's bounced off this level so many times. I do think that at this point, this support level is probably a little bit too worn out to continue trusting it. But we'll see, because it literally hasn't fallen below this level since it tested it in April of this year, and it's now September. So crazy how time flies, but it has been basically 5 entire months that we haven't actually broken this level. We've had fake outs. We've had fake outs every single time, with this exception right here, and a couple of smaller wicks. But we've had a lot of fake outs, but we've just never actually lost this level. So I'm going to be keeping an eye out for this to see how this goes. There is a very nasty kind of longer term pattern starting to form on Solana here, but I'm not, I don't get too concerned about things like that. Typically, to be honest, it does look exactly like Bitcoin topping out. I mean, this Solana pattern here, looks very, very similar to Bitcoin back in 2019. If I show you that, it looks very similar to this right here, doesn't it? And obviously we had the all-time high back up here. So, it looks like it's just like Bitcoin. It's had a big rally up, and now it's forming a massive descending triangle, basically just like Solana, right? Big rally up after the all-time high was already set, and then yeah, we get this kind of bearish pattern here. So this is worth keeping an eye out for. I'm not worried about it, and I think that if Solana does drop, it's got really good support below it. It's going to be a bit of a drop, right? I mean, it could drop down to like $100, $105, $80. There's a lot of good support levels like that, but and I think $80 is kind of the best one, right? Like if we're able to get an $80 Solana, I think that's going to be, that's going to take us very far in terms of resetting this market, and in terms of kind of washing out the shit. And, a lot of people are going to lose a lot of money, a lot of the shitcoin traders and stuff like that. It's going to be pretty bad for a lot of them, but it will cleanse the market. And if that's what you like, then this is definitely going to be good for the market. But yeah, good stuff across the board here. A little bit of a quick update from me today. If you have enjoyed this one, though, do me a favor and smash those likes up. Double check, of course, that you have signed up to Apex and Blowfin if you want all of those bonuses and access to phenomenal exchanges. It is super cool. Well worth checking it all out. Also, check out my Twitter. It's always linked at the top of every YouTube video. You're getting exclusive stuff from me right there. With that, I really hope you have enjoyed this one. You know what to do if you have, and I'll see you all in the next one. Cheers.